With me, Avni Raja. Let's get straight to our big story today. As the H1N1 flu sweeps through the country, it's left Maharashtra with the maximum number of cases. Now, according to data from the State Health Department, 440 deaths have been reported due to swine flu so far this year. Nasik tops the list with 53 deaths, followed by Pune and Nagpur. And a total of 4,150 cases of H1N1 have been reported. Let's go across to Disha, who's joining me right now. Disha, take us through the latest numbers that we've got.
That's right, Avni. Right from January 2017 to August 16th, 2017, there have been swine flu deaths of more than 440 across Maharashtra. And like you rightly pointed out, Nashik tops the list with more than 53 deaths alone in the entire year across Maharashtra. But an important thing to note here is that the numbers are really alarming at this point, because we have been relentlessly covering this. And last month also we had reported that how the death toll in Maharashtra had gone up to 340, and just in the span of 1 month there are more than 100 swine flu deaths that have taken place. So these numbers are really alarming. And as far as what the government, when we spoke to the government on the very same issue, they said that they are taking certain measures and precautions, because this is this disease is mostly at the high risk groups like the younger generation, the senior citizens, and also pregnant women for that matter.
Now, Disha, take us through what the measures that you just spoke about that the government is taking. Take us through those measures.
Certainly, when we spoke to the State Health Minister, Deepak Sawant, on the very same issue as to what the government is doing in terms of measures and precautions, because the numbers are increasing month on month and date by day, they said that there are certain measures that they are planning at this point in time. Firstly, creating a separate isolation cell, because in most of the hospitals a separate isolation cell is not set up where these patients can be treated. Secondly, in most also of the hospitals, the testing kits are not available where the swine flu disease can be tested. And another thing, awareness programs in the hospitals and also in schools. These are the certain precautions that the government might take up anytime soon.
All right, thanks Disha for that. Let's also listen into what Manoj Jhalani had to say, the Joint Secretary, Ministry of Health and Family Affairs.
There are issues in terms of health system strengthening at the level of public sector, which needs to be strengthened. There's also a mechanism with which you need to engage with the private sector to complement the public sector to improve healthcare delivery, so that you're able to provide an affordable and accessible quality healthcare. There is a national team which is providing all the necessary support to the state governments in terms of managing the swine flu problems in the states. Thank you.
Right now, joining me in the studio is Dr. Suleiman Merchant, Dean of Sion Hospital. Thank you very much, Dr. Merchant, for joining us today. My first question is, are these numbers worrying, and how worrying do you think they are?
Basically, I would like to say that the numbers do look large, but if you compare to what happened last year, in fact, 2010, there were 50,000 people who were affected, and we had 2,500 deaths. Last year, there were 1,500 cases and about 250 deaths. This year what has happened is we've got around 9,500 positive cases, or so it seems. And the deaths are about 400. So if you take percentages, it's not so much, but yes, every death is, a tragedy for the family, and if we can do something about it, it would be wonderful to do that. And if you compare the graphs, epidemiological charts that we usually study, in June, it was jumping up quite a bit, going beyond 2 standard deviations, for example, at Sion Hospital. But then there's a drop here. We have isolated patients, and we have taken care, both the state government as well as the corporation has taken adequate precautions. And I think public health measures to control this has worked quite well, as opposed to last year when the numbers were lesser, but the death rate was much more. So I would just request people not to panic, to keep in mind the oft-repeated things like who are the ones at risk. I wish to just correct what Disha had said earlier. Younger generation generally implies the youth. I think that's not correct. What she meant probably was children, and especially children who are at risk. So the younger generation need not worry about this. In fact, if you're fit and you're young, it's very unlikely that the disease will affect you. Even if it does, it won't affect you in any manner. It just passes off like any other flu.
Right. So, in fact, that's my next question, Dr. Merchant. This H1N1 or swine flu is often confused with the regular flu. So, when does one really decide that one should go and get tested for this virus?
That's a good question, and I think one needs to know the differences. Basically, it's a combination of various kinds of flu, the current strain. In fact, it has mutated a little bit more. Avian bird flu, Asian normal flu, and basically Asian swine flu. So this is the strain we're seeing now. So what happens is, instead of just a runny nose and a little bit of fever, with a standard flu, you generally don't get much of a sore throat. If you get a severe fever, bad sore throat, that you could question a little bit, but more importantly, the ancillary signs, like for example, if you get diarrhea and vomiting, along with this, one generally thinks of gastroenteritis in the monsoon, but I think one should keep in mind, if you have high fever, diarrhea, vomiting, get yourself tested. That's all you need to do. Other things are, if you have a child who's got respiratory illnesses, an elderly person with hypertension, diabetes, but more importantly, or the most important would be pregnant ladies with even mild fever and few symptoms. They need to be checked aggressively because they go downhill very fast.
All right, we've got Dinakaran Nair who's calling in and has a question for Dr. Merchant from Navi Mumbai. Hi, Dinakaran, go ahead.
Yeah, I have this.
Dinakaran, go ahead, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can speak?
Yes,
Yeah.
I would just request you to mute your
Good
TV.
evening, Dr.
Go ahead.
Merchant. I had a small question regarding the logistics because, so today I had a case where a long acquaintance of mine called me up, doctor, who's one of the relatives was affected with H1N1. And what happened is, there are certain hospitals who do not have the ability to take care of this. Or the reason being given is that there is a lack or a dearth of isolation rooms. So in such situations, doctor, the logistics become difficult because where do we take such patients? Are we able to take these patients to a particular hospital, or hospitals have got an advisory that they must be prepared in such cases to handle these one-off or the cases that come from a local area?
Right.
So the particular hospital in Mira Road had a problem, and they gave the treatment. They did not refuse the treatment, but they said that we do not have an isolation ward. So then, therefore, we have to shift the patient. Doesn't this cause a concern? Though the patient is a little elderly person, doesn't this cause concern? Because where does the family take the patients in such a case?
Right. Dr. Merchant, in fact, this is a very important question, and also the larger, of course, his question specifically, and the larger issue of how equipped are hospitals to deal with such cases.
That's a very good question, and I think it's definitely a reason to worry for people. But I'd like to clarify that not all patients require admission. There are categories, and only the worst of the lot. I mean, extremely high risk with symptomatology like breathlessness, you have petechial spots on your body, or if you have anything which has been type C. We can show you a list if you like. Only then you require hospitalization. So people want their relatives to be hospitalized. For example, if you have mild fever and even if you have H1N1 positive, you don't need anything. If the fever goes up, if the test is positive, then you can isolate yourself at home and then take medicines at home. There's no need to be hospitalized at all. The patients who need hospitalization are the severely compromised patients, severely compromised health-wise, not just age-wise, but health-wise, children with breathlessness, pregnant ladies, things like that. So you don't have to worry about hospitalization for every case.
Right. Dr. Merchant, what the government is doing now, are the government measures enough?
That's a good question, and I think the answer lies in the success rate of the public health program, where the percentage of, in spite of the large numbers, the percentage of death has definitely dropped between last year. Like I said, out of 1,500 cases, there were 250 deaths last year. Now we have around 9,500 cases and around 400 odd deaths. If we take a statistical significance, there has been a drop. So public health programs have been good, both in the state government as well as the BMC.
Right. Now, the other question is, as far as the vaccinations are concerned, is that something that you would recommend?
Actually, I'm a little guarded on that. But if you take one simple fact that if a lot of people get vaccinated, what happens is you get herd immunity and the viral load drops in the community, and therefore the entire community gets safer. So if you go by statistics, yes, there's enough proof that if you take vaccines, an adult will get reduced incidence and requirement of ICU, even elderly people, death rates would come down.
Right.
And
right.
Things like that.
Right. We've got Dinakaran Nair still with us, who has another question. Go ahead, Dinakaran.
You see, basic preventive prophylactic medicines that people could take while they are in the vicinity of an infection, or somewhere the relatives are infected, and so there's a chance of somebody moving around in the same place, vicinity. Is there any kind of a prophylactic, something that you could take without the vaccination, because the vaccination probably would come in, but at the same time to make sure that there is not much of a problem and we can prevent another infection happening? Is there any kind of such prophylactics available?
That is not recommended, although it is available. There is no need for prophylactic treatment. Like I said, if you are a healthy adult, there is no need to worry. Even if you get the swine flu or H1N1 as it is called, you won't be having any problem. And worst case scenario, I mean, people recover in just 2 doses of medicine, even if in case things worsen for healthy adults. We're talking about healthy adults. But in compromised patients, yes, definitely you'd have to take precautions and cover them with the standard drugs. So there's no need for prophylaxis for everyone except the high-risk cases.
Right. Dr. Merchant, we've got another question that's come in on Twitter from Sandeep. He asks whether in the Tamiflu strategy, can it lead to oseltamivir resistance in the future?
No, it's a pretty safe drug and it's pretty effective in if you treat it early. And in healthy individuals. The only problem is with the high-risk individuals where you need second line, third line at times of treatment.
Right. Doctor, tell us about the high-risk categories as far as swine flu is concerned. Who are at high risk and what extra preventive measures would they need to take?
That's a nice, I think that's what people need to remember. That's a good question. You take children, for example, small children with compromised lung function, asthma, other lung diseases. There you'd be noticing breathlessness coming up in a severe form. The children won't be attentive, will be morose, lying around, not interested in getting, meals, things like that. So that category would be at high risk, would be requiring urgent treatment. Then the other lot is in a younger crowd, pregnant women. They have to be taken care of very, very aggressively. So any symptomatology there would require immediate treatment or at least testing. And the extreme elderly, who are already compromised health-wise, diabetics, hypertension, again asthma, the same things. Obese people, again, for some reason, are at risk. So one should be a little careful if one is obese.
Right. All right. We've got another caller with us, Oscar from Mumbai. Oscar, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know what is the difference between a normal flu, the symptoms of a normal flu, and swine flu? Is it because I suppose the symptoms are the same, right?
Right. Dr. Merchant, this is exactly what we were talking just a minute ago. And I think that's where the awareness actually comes in, because there's not enough awareness and people often confuse the regular flu symptoms with swine flu.
That's right. We'd already said this earlier in the program, but maybe you missed that. What swine flu, where you suspect swine flu, is when an ordinary flu just has a runny nose, kind of a little bit sore throat here and there. You have a higher sore throat, you get breathless. That's definitely reason to worry and do things fast. You have petechial spots, like bleeding spots, tiny little red dots on your body. That's a reason to get alarmed. If you have any of the age groups which I've mentioned earlier, you need to be a little aggressive. Otherwise, you needn't worry at all.
Dr. Merchant, as far as the Tamiflu is concerned, if by chance somebody takes Tamiflu who does not have swine flu and just a regular flu, is that something that could have any adverse effects?
I wouldn't recommend taking that, but I don't think 2 doses or a couple of doses would have any effect. But no need for the entire spectrum to be taken just because you suspect you have H1N1.
Right. And it's not just Maharashtra, even Lucknow, Gujarat, there are several areas that are seeing a spike in cases of H1N1 and swine flu, and also the death numbers have been spiking. Is there any reason as to why this spike is happening, and especially in the last couple of months?
The actually trend is going down a bit, but it is important to understand that home isolation is the major treatment suggested for category 2 of H1N1, which requires treatment. Category A doesn't require, B requires home isolation treatment. So if people just isolate themselves rather than get into crowds, that would help a lot in bringing cross-infection or infection down. And if people are aware about the criticality of people who are prone, then early treatment in there would reduce the death rates drastically.
Now, as far as hospitals are concerned, as far as testing kits are concerned, is that enough? Is there something more that needs to be done in terms of dealing with this to ensure that it doesn't sort of further increase in number?
No, there are adequate kits available. One needn't worry about that.
Right. And any other important preventive measures, if you can just take us through as a checklist that people should be aware about as far as H1N1 and swine flu is concerned?
A simple etiquette like coughing etiquette, sneezing, just cover your mouth when you're coughing. If you're sneezing, just cover your nose, take a kerchief. That would help limit the viral load in the environment. Wash your hands often. Hand hygiene is important over there. Avoid crowded areas, isolate yourself, and not panic. Stress is a very big factor. If you want to take care of your health, you have to be cool and calm in spite of any adversity. So H1N1 is an ordinary flu, unless you are in one of those categories which I mentioned earlier, young children, especially with a compromise of lung function, women who are pregnant, and elderly with diabetic hypertension, etc.
All right, we've got another caller joining in, Father Raymond from Mumbai. Go ahead, Father Raymond.
Yes, so swine flu is in the air, and a lot of our young people, they don't get sufficient sleep.
Right.
They are overburdened with their studies and classes and things like that. And they don't get pure water to drink. And that is how swine flu is in the air. And we see a lot of young people and elderly people are affected by this flu.
Yes, what's your question, Father Raymond?
Yeah, so how we can, help our young people and the elderly people with regard to this, be careful and the cautious of this swine flu.
Right. Dr. Merchant, we've of course been discussing this, but if you can briefly just reiterate
Sure.
what you had said for Father Raymond.
Well, Father Raymond, what you've said regarding water, there's no connection between bad quality drinking water and H1N1. So no need to worry about that. Obviously, you need good drinking water. That's another issue altogether. But if you are, like I've said earlier, if you have little children who have respiratory problems, who are already asthmatic, and if they get breathless, much more breathless, any child who's getting breathless with fever and sore throat can be suspected and brought. Otherwise, children, again, heal fast. Any pregnant woman who's having symptoms even mildly should be tested. And elderly, like I mentioned earlier, with diabetic hypertension, other problems, who are already immune-compromised patients, for example, they would need to be checked very aggressively. Otherwise, rest you can observe and isolate them at home, and if required, treat at home. That should be enough.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Merchant, for joining us and taking us through all those important pieces of advice.
You're most welcome.
All right, moving on now. Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is expected to pay his second visit to Gorakhpur this Saturday. Now, the BRD hospital has been given a facelift after we here at Mirror Now highlighted the issue, but we didn't stop at that. Mirror Now, in fact, did a ground check on the primary healthcare centers in Gorakhpur, and we were shocked to find the pitiable state of affairs there. The visuals there on your screen were taken today. Our reporter on ground, Aishwarya, found most of the primary health centers were kept under lock and key. People were staring at empty rooms waiting for the doctors to arrive.
I'm standing at the entrance of a community healthcare center. Now, this is a center which caters to close to 3 kilometers of area in and around. But if I'll ask my video journalist to pan and show you exactly what the condition is outside this community healthcare center. Also, I have certain people standing with me, and I'll ask these people what they have to say about this center. अभी आप इधर देख रहे हैं कि ये अस्पतालें हैं और इसके बाहर ये सब कुछ पड़ा हुआ है।
बहुत गंदगी है, इतनी गंदगी है कि कोई भी मरीज अगर यहाँ बीमार आएगा तो और बीमार हो जाएगा अगर 4 से 5 घंटा यहाँ रुकता है तो। बाहर में जो एंट्री गेट है उसके बाहर कितनी बड़ी गंदगी है आप देखिए, और जो ठीक सामने जाने वाला रास्ता है इस पर भी गंदगी है। यहाँ डॉक्टरों की कोई सुविधा नहीं है। दवा के नाम पर जो भी दवा एकदम कम से कम पैसे को खुलता दिया जाता है, कोई अच्छी दवा
पिछले महीने से एक्सरे प्लेट नहीं है हॉस्पिटल में। पिछले महीने की 15 तारीख से एक्सरे प्लेट नहीं है, मरीजों को वापस किया जाता है।
और अगर कोई मरीज जाकर के अपना एक्सरे कराता है और पैसा देता है।
पूरे नगर पंचायत पूरा मच्छर से न तो नगर पंचायत का कोई अधिकारी, न हॉस्पिटल का कोई अधिकारी स्वच्छता के प्रति रुचि दिखाता है। जबकि पता चला है नगर पंचायत को हर महीना सरकार से 15 लाख रुपए फंड में आता है और सफाई के नाम पर कुछ नहीं हो जाएगा। अभी बारिश हो जाए तो 10 मिनट बाद देख लीजिए सब पानी भरा रहेगा। क्या नाम है, पूरे कैंपस में पानी भरा रहेगा।
यहाँ कोई बढ़िया डॉक्टर नहीं है, कोई बढ़िया कोई भी इमरजेंसी केस आ जाए इतना तत्काल इलाज किया जा सके, तुरंत उसको सदर भेजा जाता है, तुरंत मेडिकल भेजा जाता है, रेफर कर दिया जाता है यहाँ पर।
नहीं, अगर डीएम मान लीजिए रिकमेंड करता है कि निस्तारण किया जाए, यहाँ से निस्तारण लिख के भेज दिया जाता था और कोई काम नहीं होता था। कम से कम ऐसे 20 एप्लीकेशन होंगे जिनका सिस्टम में दिखाया जाता है कि निस्तारित कर दिया गया है, और आज भी गंदगी लगी हुई है। जब कल सफाई शुरू हुई है तब उन मोहल्लों वालों ने चैन की सांस लिए 5-7 साल बाद, नहीं तो 1.5 फीट पानी टाउन एरिया में लगा रहता था।
पहले ने आए थे, दवा नहीं मिला था, पहले लेकर आए थे माता जी का बीपी हाई है, तो दवा लेने आए थे। चेक कराने के बाद उन्होंने बताया कि आज दवा हमारे पास है ही नहीं है, फिर दूसरे दिन आना ले जाना। अभी आए हैं तो बंद पड़ा है, देख रहे हैं, प्राइवेट दुकान पर लेंगे।
थोड़ा सा अंदर है और ये मेन रोड पर होना बहुत ज़रूरी था जो है, जिसकी वजह से मरीज़ नहीं आ पाते हैं। यहाँ पे जो भी स्टाफ है अपने समय से आते हैं और जाते हैं जो है, लेकिन वही न होने की वजह से कोई सुविधा नहीं है, इसकी वजह से दिक्कत होती है।
ये थोड़ा सा सड़क के ऑन रोड अगर होता या पास में होता तो बहुत सुविधा मिलती मरीजों को, क्योंकि मरीज दूर दूर से आते हैं और ऐसे गरीब मरीज और जो जिनके पास कन्वेंस का प्रॉब्लम है वो तो पैदल आने भी उनके लिए सुविधा, पैदल आ नहीं सकते वो, इसलिए समय पर पहुंच भी नहीं पाते हॉस्पिटल, इलाज भी नहीं करा पाते हैं वो लोग।
क्योंकि जो अंदर है तो सब हम लोग को भी आने में दिक्कत होता है, मरीज को भी आने में। जो पैदल आ सकते हैं मतलब चलते फिरते मरीज यहाँ आ पाते हैं, ज़्यादा बीमार वाले यहाँ नहीं आ पाते हैं, क्योंकि भाई उनको साधन की जब तक रहेगा अपना निजी या तो उसको रिजर्व करे तब आए। इतने तो गरीब मरीज इतना उनके पास पैसा नहीं रहता कि वो रिजर्व करके आए यहाँ पर, तो ऊपर वही पैदल वाले ही आ पाते हैं बस यहाँ पर भी।
Meanwhile, the Allahabad High Court has asked for a report on the deaths of over 70 people in Gorakhpur's BRD hospital. The court wants a report from the UP government by the 29th of August. The court has asked the Principal Secretary of Health Uttar Pradesh and the Gorakhpur District Magistrate to file affidavits within 10 days. The court said this while hearing several PILs demanding an appointment of a judicial commission to probe the Gorakhpur deaths. Now, in response to another PIL filed by activist Dr. Nutan Thakur, the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court has sought the UP government's reply on the Gorakhpur issue within 6 weeks. Dr. Thakur's PIL had asked for a judicial commission to be formed, stating that a government probe cannot be expected to do a fair inquiry. Remember, both the Allahabad High Court and the Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court have sought responses from Yogi Adityanath's government. Listen in to what Nutan Thakur told Mira Now.
स्टेट गवर्नमेंट का जो रिस्पांस रहा है वो क्लियर स्टैंड रहा है कि ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई की वजह से कोई भी डेथ नहीं हुई है, और बाद में फिर कंट्राडिक्टरी व्यू है जिसमें यह कहा गया कि कुछ देर के लिए बाधित हुई थी ऑक्सीजन सप्लाई। ऑल्दो आज कोर्ट में हियरिंग के दौरान एडवोकेट जनरल ने कोर्ट को अवेयर किया कि वो खुद ही इस इशू को काफी गंभीरता से देख रहे हैं। इंक्वायरी भी चीफ सेक्रेटरी के अंडर में बनाई गई है, लेकिन यहाँ इशू जुडिशियल कमीशन की डिमांड इसीलिए कोर्ट से की गई है क्योंकि जब गवर्नमेंट का एक ऑलरेडी व्यू आ चुका है तो चीफ सेक्रेटरी की जो रिपोर्ट होगी वो कितना उससे अलग होगी, मोस्ट प्रोबेबली जो आशंका है वो उस चीज को ही डिफेंड करेंगे।
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of The Big Story. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Mirror Now.